Thank you for plugging into this Family Life News podcast, streaming issues-driven, family-focused news.
Welcome back to another edition of Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection. What's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. Michael Geer at the Pennsylvania Family Institute and Jason McGuire at New Yorkers for Constitutional Freedoms. Well, the pandemic, Michael, cannot stop politics. Primary day fast approaching. It happens Tuesday in the Commonwealth, and you've got new voter guides that are hot off the presses. What is on these guides, and give us your sense of how that vote might happen in the age of coronavirus?
Well, there are a lot of changes in Pennsylvania's election, in the primary election this year. First, the date was changed to June 2nd. It had been previously scheduled earlier in the year, but because of COVID, it was changed. Then this is the first year that Pennsylvania has the mail-in ballots as an option for folks. Now, the deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot has passed, so anybody who has not received one of those is going to have to vote in person. Then if they want to find out about where the candidates stand on the issues, they can go to our online interactive voters guide at pafamilyvoter.com. That's pafamilyvoter.com. It asks questions of the candidates on a variety of issues, from abortion to legalization of marijuana, school choice, Planned Parenthood funding, sanctuary cities, school property taxes, a whole range of issues that can help people make wise choices when they go to the voting booth.
All right, we'll give that website again at the end so folks can go and check it out. But Jason, hey, back in business in Albany, first time since I believe early April that the New York State Senate was in session, the Assembly as well, I believe. Give us kind of an idea what went on in Albany this week.
Yeah, that's right, Bob. Both the Senate and the Assembly were back in session. What essentially I think the legislature has to reestablish itself as a separate and equal branch of government. The governor has been getting all the headlines in recent months, but the legislature are the ones that are up for election this year. And so they have a pandemic legislative agenda as they're looking to take on various actions to kind of get their arms around this issue, largely helping out renters that cannot make their rent right now. Things such as that is what's going on in the legislature. They did also extend the Child Victims Act. And so due to the pandemic, there was a need to extend that so the new cases could be filed beyond the August deadline. And so they've been active for about 2 or 3 days this week, and then I think they'll be done for the year.
All right. They did have their masks on. I thought it was interesting. One of the bills they passed actually gives us permission to wear masks in public. So now we're good to go, right? Let's head back to Harrisburg. Interesting stuff when it comes to the budget. The state may pass not one, but 2 budgets this year. Michael, explain what that's all about.
Well, part of it has to do with just, it's obviously the COVID crisis and the state not really sure what revenues are going to ultimately look like. Everybody knows it's going to be a massive budget hole to try to fill, so they're trying to do it in 2 steps to get a better sense of what the revenue is going to be, but then also to tackle the stuff that needs to be tackled right away. The challenges are when you have a big budget hole like they do with the massive deficits, they start talking about expanding gambling once again. They talk about legalization of marijuana. The lieutenant governor and governor have said they'd like to see that happen. So we're watching very closely as they do this in 2 steps.
Yeah. About 100 pastors were in Western New York earlier this week, Jason, claiming that the governor is assaulting First Amendment rights by not letting churches operate more freely inside church buildings. The president has said that he will force the issue here, open up, or he will open the churches up. What counsel are you providing to pastors right now who are conflicted about what is the correct course of action here?
Yeah, we're urging caution to our pastors. I know there's this tremendous push from people in congregations. They want to get back to worship in the buildings. And I think that's good. And we're quickly coming to that point. In fact, many churches are using May 31st as the reopen date here in New York. And many of those will be, all of them will be in violation of the governor's 10-person restriction on religious gatherings. So we are urging caution to work as collaboratively as we can but also to recognize that there is a constitutional right to our religious freedom. And I believe that is being infringed upon as this is going on beyond just the fear of the pandemic. It is now turning into something else. So we want pastors to know that we support whatever decision they are trying to make for their congregations. They are the under-shepherd that Christ has called to lead that congregation. And if that pastor feels the time has come to reopen the doors, we support that. And if the pastor feels they need more time for whatever reason, we support that decision as well. We trust the under-shepherds to care for their flock.
Yeah. Michael, Pennsylvania's Congressman Glenn Thompson told us this week he does not see mass gatherings being a reality until there's a coronavirus vaccine. We've already seen the president threaten to move this summer's convention out of Charlotte because of the ban on these large stadium events. We've seen what it's done to the sports world. But when it comes to things like the big pro-life rally that you're planning in Harrisburg in the fall, how soon do you think it will be before we see those kinds of gatherings?
It's a real challenge to make those determinations, quite honestly, Bob. I mean, when we think about what's going to happen in the fall, is there going to be a resurgence of the virus? No one really knows. We hear Dr. Fauci, for example, talking about and saying there's no guarantee there won't be a resurgence, but no guarantee there will. So it's really hard to make plans and prognostications about these sort of things. What we are finding is science is not settled. There's not a ton that's really ultimately known about this. For a while, we thought it was spread on surfaces, then they tell us it's not. So many different things that we, honestly, though we're planning for a fall March for Life, we don't know ultimately at this stage whether it's going to be able to happen.
Yeah, that is tough stuff to kind of have to navigate those waters. Jason, there is some people talking. I know Assemblyman Sean Ryan kind of tamped this down a little bit, but because of the multi-billion-dollar deficit New York is facing, that, hey, why not now go ahead and legalize full-blown marijuana so we can tax that stuff and add to the state's coffers? Do you see that as a real possibility in the closing days of the legislative session?
Well, I find it interesting that when we have a session trying to deal with a virus that affects the respiratory system, that we're looking to legalize a drug that affects the respiratory system. Yeah. So there's some irony there. I just don't see it happening. It's a very sticky wicket regarding where the funding for that taxation would go, and I just don't think it's going to happen at this time. I do believe that there could be a special session later this year, and as the governor is looking for revenue, he might be looking to allow recreational marijuana so he can tax that. But I don't expect that until probably the fall at the earliest.
All right, Governor Wolf, all eyes on him today. His first live presser in months in Dauphin County as he announces the color-coded comeback scheme here. You expect the media, Mike, to hit him hard on kind of the secret way that he's led this recovery through this pandemic, whether it be the nursing home crisis or the fact that, so many businesses were not given waivers while others were, Planned Parenthood, for instance. Do you anticipate at all he'll be forced to answer hard questions here?
This kind of reminds me of Punxsutawney Phil a little bit, that the governor's finally coming out, and if he sees his shadow, maybe COVID continues and the shutdown continues. Yeah. But anyway, all joking aside, I do think, hopefully, that he'll be asked some tough questions. I mean, he's been saying he's trying to be transparent, but the fact that he hasn't taken follow-up questions, no questions really from the press in person at all, certainly no follow-up questions, closed the open records office. There's so many questions, the ones that you mentioned about, things like these waivers and nursing homes and so on. Hopefully, he will get some tough questions today because Pennsylvanians deserve answers.
Yeah, they do. And mark your calendar, June 9th, all-mail school board elections. That's mail, M-A-I-L, not M-A-L-E. The mail-in vote here for the school boards. Why is it so important, Jason, for our listeners, even those who don't have children enrolled in public school, to take part in that school board vote?
Well, if you're a New Yorker, you know a lot about taxation, and certainly that is one of the impacts of what happened to the school board's budget elections, and the school board helps direct that process. But what most people don't realize is the school board is also the one that ultimately approves the curriculum in every district. And with more and more mandates coming down from Albany regarding various things, with a greater and greater push from progressives to include a progressive agenda in your children's education, you want to be in a position, you want people to share your values in positions that have the ability to block or to advance curriculum that really teaches essential things and not the peripheral things that progressives would have us to. So I encourage people to vote in every school budget and school board election.
All right, that one's happening June 9th. If you want more information on Primary Day, Pennsylvania, you've got a wonderful site folks can check out. Michael, where is that?
PAFamilyVoter.com.
All right, and in New York, stay informed on the issues. Jason, where can they find you, sir?
AlbanyUpdate.com.